So, wanted to actually look at some numbers today. You want to get into it?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Okay. So, here, just because I know people are trading, like shorter duration positions, I wanted to look at 15 DTE SPY strangles at 20 delta. So we're looking, call and put side. We want to look at both sides to understand when those strangles hit a 1x loss. We're going to be isolating those cases. Does the source of the loss kind of like when we say matter, does it make a difference in terms of like how you can expect that loss to kind of recover? They hit a 1x loss about 27% of the time. The shorter duration positions, smaller, loss thresholds compared to like 45 DTE positions are more common. We looked at the study, like last week, when it hits a 1x loss, there's a 41% chance overall of that position recovering at some point prior to expiration when we take all the other management conditions out of it. And so today, what I wanted to look at is depending on whether the loss is a put breach, a strike breach, or an IV pop, how does that change the chance of this type of position recovering? Make sense?
I like it.
Yep.
Cool. Okay, let's get into it. So here we're actually using 10 years of data. So we're going back from January 2016 to present. We're looking at 20 delta, 15 DTE SPY strangles, no management considered. We really just want to look at isolating the trades that have a 1x, the initial credit loss, at some point prior to expiration. Does the initial primary source of the loss make a difference in terms of like the overall statistics and the likelihood of recovery? And here we're going to be estimating the initial source of the loss as either a call breach, a put breach, or neither, which we're going to attribute to IV. So then broken down by source, determine the probability of recovery, and then also the average and median P&L, of the position as well as the C-bar. We're going to assume that we take the trade off once the P&L flips positive, if that does happen, and then we're going to be looking at sort of like the aggregate statistics of that strategy. Make sense?
Did.
Cool. Okay. So this first slide that we're going to be looking at is basically like what, for strangles that do hit this 1x loss initially, what percentage of those are caused by, a call breach, a put breach, or neither, which we're going to attribute to IV. And what you can actually see is it's actually split pretty evenly between call breaches and put breaches. Call breaches are a little bit more common. They're about 47% of the sources of those 1x losses versus 44% for a put breach. And then IV actually happened more often than I was expecting, about 8.5% of the time. And what you see here as well for each of these bars, it basically tells you like at what point relative to expiration did these losses happen on average. And what you can see is that call breaches and put breaches happen much closer to expiration versus IV pops, which like happen actually pretty quickly after you put on the trade in the cases of the 1x losses that we looked at.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think when you put on a trade and you have a move in either direction or you have an IV pop and it's an out of the money 1x loss, that's going to happen much more commonly with days left to go. Like, because you don't have the theta decay working against you or working for you in that sense to prevent the out of the money loss. But the breaches make all the sense in the world. Like that's where you're going to see the majority of losses.
Right. That makes sense. With call breaches actually being more common over the last 10 years, we've had very bullish market conditions, right? So like that to me made sense. But yeah, those IV pops happen on average pretty quickly in the trade with 11 days to go in a 15 DTE position versus the breaches, which really happen at least, on average from, drifting prices over time is kind of what you see more commonly, which is why they happen a bit closer to expiration compared to those IV pops. But what I thought was interesting is that when you go to the next slide, is that when you look at the probability of recovery, you can see that the call breaches, as you'd kind of expect, very bullish market, very rarely recover. A little over 20% of the time, a 1x loss from a call breach recovers about 20% of the time. Put breach is a little bit closer to 50-50, where in about 50% of cases, if the initial source of the loss is a put breach, then that recovers that 1x loss about 50% of the time in the cases that we looked at. And then the IV related 1x losses actually recovered about 90% of the time at some point prior to expiration. So those IV, pops that caused those losses very early in the time that you're holding the contract actually recovered the overwhelming majority of the time in the cases we looked at.
Yeah, this is one of those cases, and I'm going to quote President Bush here. You breached my call once, shame on me. You breached my call twice, Well, you can't breach my call twice anymore because I'm moving that whole thing up. I'm done with that. I'm done with it. And this is exactly why.
Yeah.
And this is like in SPY in particular, the more market goes down, the more bullish delta I want to pick up if I have a strangle. So like I'm going to leave that put on. I'm going to roll it to a straddle and have like an in the money straddle covered call type feel. But if I'm tested on the upside, I'm not under hedging and leaving that short call to just get blown out to the upside over time. Like I'm moving the whole thing up. And that's why these year-long trades in MES and MNQ have worked out so well, because into those up moves, when we're tested on the upside, we are moving the whole thing up so that our short put is now tested versus the short call being tested. Because as you can see, if you get hit on the call side in a bullish market in a low VIX, like you're playing with fire.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and MNQs exactly. We shift the whole thing up in those situations because of exactly that. That's what's great about this piece.
Yeah. Very cool. And this also kind of like ties back into sort of like some of the topics that we were talking about last week, which is that having more time to recover plays a very big factor when it comes to managing a position. Right. Like that time factor, like, and we're looking at 15 DTE positions, right? Like but the IV pops happen pretty early on in the trade on average is like kind of what we're looking at here when we're specifically looking at 1x losses. And then those, by way that we're measuring them have more time to recover, which plays a big factor here as well. And then when we go to the next slide, we can look at kind of like all the
statistics. I do have a question. I think I missed. Why'd you guys choose 15 DTE versus like any other time frame?
I just picked 15 just because I was looking at OCC data and like that expiration, like shorter expirations, right, are just becoming more popular on average. But sort of like we talked about the last time we talked about a similar study is that we use daily snapshots in these back tests. So I wanted to make sure that we had like, a shorter duration, but enough data points to really, determine a bit more accurately the probability of some of these losses flipping. So that, 15 DTE kind of seemed like a sweet spot between shorter expirations, but also enough data to be able to make a more conclusive, decision, I guess. Or assessment of the data.
Yeah, that makes sense. Got a lot of numbers up here.
I know you're ready for some numbers, but these are pretty cool numbers. So call breaches are, like I should say, 1x losses from call breaches are highly unlikely to recover. That's about 20% of the time they recovered at some point prior to expiration. But their tail risk was significantly lower than losses caused by put breaches or losses caused by IV. Sort of like by neither breach. So even though the put breaches are more likely to recover, the put breach losses are more likely to recover. They come with higher tail risk because in the cases when they don't, just because of the sheer like momentum or the velocity of the downside moves in the market that can cause those call breaches, that causes a bit more tail risk in the cases that we looked at. Same with IV. We're going to look at this, in a second, but the losses that were caused by IV that didn't recover as well, even though most of them did, a lot of the, IV related losses eventually turned into put breaches, which is why they have kind of a similar tail risk profile as the put breach case. But 90% of recovery, and then you actually get into positive median P&Ls when you're looking at the put breach or the IV related loss situation or IV cause loss situation. But that does come with higher tail risk, kind of as you would expect.
I mean, I see this and I think, if I'm short a strangle and it makes a move to the downside and implied vol goes up, I shouldn't be too worried, basically, is what this tells me.
Until you get a put breach. That's the kind of like, right, if vol goes up and you haven't gotten a breach yet, high chance of recovery. Even when it does breach to the put side, just because put, related losses are more, put caused losses are more likely to recover. Those can also recover in a lot of cases. But in the cases where they don't, especially when you're not using any other management style, like getting out, halfway to expiration, using, stop losses, any of that kind of stuff, then those losses can become quite large, at least, during the back test period that we looked at.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting because like you look at the put breach and you also think to yourself like, well, what if I rolled this like right when my put was breached, if I went from a 15-day cycle, I rolled it out in time to a 30 or 45-day and I moved it back out of the money and down. And then if you think about that transaction where you're buying back this losing trade, opening up a new trade and a further dated cycle into a sell-off, I would imagine that the research would show the recovery is significantly higher once you move it further out of the money, because now you're getting yourself into like a brand new trade in isolation where you're selling a put out of the money into a big sell-off in the market. So
Yeah.
to your point, there's other management styles that you can deliver here. But if you were to just isolate this specific thing, you can still see that being breached on the put side and or having an IV breach resulting in a 1x loss, like those are situations that you can recover from.
Yeah.
And they're less worrisome. If you were sized correctly, the CVAR is higher because to your point, the elevator down, escalator up. But if you're sized correctly and you can hold it and you can just roll it out in time, like you have a better scenario than being breached on the call side for sure.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's interesting because I've said this before. I did this, I think, at live shows, maybe a little bit in our bad trader tour, and maybe I think the other time when we had that one thing where we came and talked about like a trade that I talked about how when I first got to a prop firm, the number one thing dudes would be like, don't ever be short put, like because most of them had traded either in or just after the 87 crash. Like my OGs at the time. And so like they were still fearful of that. Right.
And they were levered up.
Yeah. I mean, probably to some degree. It's back then, maybe not as much, maybe to some degree, but just still like the velocity of that move kind of still scared a lot of people. Right. Whereas now, after we've had all these different types of moves, we know that you can potentially recover. And even then, at the end of the day, like taking delivery on a put, which, is not the scariest thing in the world. Right. Not to say you want to take delivery on a Micron or SanDisk put right now, because those are very expensive stocks, but you guys get what I'm saying.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the other piece of this is again, like the time piece quite a bit. So just like with IV, like because these happen so early in the trade, you're balancing like, is this the most efficient use of capital is like kind of really between like what should be, I would say, in my opinion, top of mind when you're kind of deciding whether to give a position more time to recover and keeping the capital tied up in that versus redeploying it elsewhere. And when you have a loss from IV, just because those happen early in the trade, giving it a little bit of time to recover before, especially they turn into a put breach potentially, can mechanically, it seems like that's typically what somebody would do. But that being said, it's really the balancing act of like, is this the best use of money right now, my money? Because like, could I deploy it elsewhere? By the time it really becomes like a deep call breach or a deep put breach, at that point, there's so little time left in the trade, and IV is certainly popped as well. In especially the put breach cases, like that makes a stronger argument for rolling, Mikey, like you said, like or readjusting the positions.
100%.
Cool. So, and then in this next table, this kind of like shows what I'm talking about in a little bit more numeric detail. But basically, when we look at the IV driven losses, like the IV, pops that basically cause that initial 1x loss, 48% of them eventually turned into put breaches. And that's really where that CVAR kind of comes in, and why the CVAR for, like leaving those on and leaving them to recover, even though most of them do, that's really where that tail risk comes in. We can see that very rarely do they turn into call breaches. And, about half of them ultimately sort of like recover, and those don't carry the same kind of tail risk as when they turn into a put breach. So the kind of like middle ground approach here would be like if IV pops, especially early in the trade, and it causes a 1x loss, looking at these 20 delta 15 DTE contracts, then giving it a little bit of time to recover the loss of the position, especially before it turns into a put breach, is really that middle ground approach, at least according to this study.
Yeah. And this makes perfect sense that an IV expansion would come from a downside move in SPY. So it would be crazy if you saw the opposite, where like IV expansions into call breaches, but not if you're in like a tech stock like Micron or SanDisk. Like those would actually be the opposite, I would imagine. Where if you saw an IV increased loss, it was probably to the upside versus the downside, because there are different dynamics in different markets. But in SPY, it's always going to be downside move equals IV increase.
Yeah. And then sometimes like the IV increases and then it just comes back down and it just stays neither. Like it doesn't turn into a breach position. And in those cases, like the CVAR, at least in this, one specific study, was positive. So not resulting in losses, at least looking in those worst 5% of cases. So it's really a balancing act. A lot of it is around like capital deployment, what's the most efficient use, as well as like the risk of a single position and how much, capital you're willing to leave exposed potentially, especially with undefined risk positions. So yeah, that's all I got.
Love it.
Cool.
Cool.
Incredible stuff.
You can get For the takeaways, just to kind of go through these. So for the 15 DTE SPY strangles tested, 1x losses occurred about 27% of the time at some point prior to expiration. They recovered 41% of the time overall, but the source of the 1x loss, we saw made a statistical difference in terms of the chances of recovery and the tail risks. So losses from call breaches were the most common and the least likely to recover, but carried significantly less tail risk than losses caused by put breaches or IV. Losses from put breaches recovered about half the time, but carried roughly twice the tail risk of losses caused from call breaches. IV initially, caused 8.5% of the 1x losses that we observed, but recovered 90% of the time. However, those, small number of cases that didn't recover, created comparable tail risk to sort of the losses from put breaches. And that's really because the losses that started out from the IV pops turned into, put breaches in those more extreme cases. So you're always going to kind of like I was going to have more exposure to tail risk and just like P&L volatility overall by leaving a position on, especially after it's incurred a loss. But looking at those IV cases, the kind of like middle ground approach would be waiting to see if it turns into, especially a put breach, is kind of the one to look out for in SPY, or give it a little time to recover.
I love it.
Cool.
Yeah, I think this is super important data, and it needs to be shown that it helps you decide the next move, really.
Yep.
Like when you have the put breach and IV increase, and you see the recovery probabilities from that, it's just a different style of management, I would say.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I'd say so too. And always important to remember that this is SPY, that a company that has like earnings, for example, losses caused by binary events or FOMC announcements might behave differently. Here we're kind of using our kind of gold standard of like, super liquid, well-diversified market index. So always important to note, the lens that we approach the study from.
Absolutely. Well,
Cool.
Julia,
That's all I got.
appreciate you.
Yep.
Absolutely. That was great stuff. Great stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you guys.
Love it.